Hello YouTube, I'm back unexpectedly. I did intend to make this video, but I didn't know whether I'd be able to after uploading the video yesterday that I made about the NHS decision with the puberty blockers. So I'm happy to say I've managed to get another video together for you, and this time we'll be talking about Liz Truss's Private Members Bill, which is going to go for the second reading in the House of Commons tomorrow. That's Friday, the 15th of March. And the Private Members Bill that she's proposing is called the Health and Equality Acts Amendment Bill. So let's look at what's being proposed in a little bit more detail. So X, formerly Twitter, is still discussing the NHS ban on prescribing puberty blockers that isn't actually a ban on prescribing puberty blockers for everyone. But events continue to happen, and this is an event that is happening, so let's talk about it. This bill is getting a sympathetic write-up in the media. There's an example in the Telegraph, and I will leave a link in the description box to that article. Pink News is shrieking from the sidelines that this is a terrible, terrible thing, and it's not fair if men have to use the men's toilets. I thought that what we should do is go through the bill and look at whether or not we should support it, whether we should lobby our MPs about it as constituents. So here we go, and bear with me because it's legislation, and so the language can be a bit dry. I'm not a lawyer, so what I'm giving you is my interpretation, which I'm giving you in good faith as a layperson reading this legislation. What I'm saying has no legal authority at all. I haven't checked any of this with a lawyer, and I'm very welcome to be corrected if there are lawyers who feel that I've misinterpreted or misunderstood aspects of the legislation. I'd really welcome it if anybody wants to comment. So let's go. First of all, let's look at the Health and Equality Acts Amendment Bill. So we can see that it already started being discussed at its first reading, which was back last year in December and November. So what we're going to talk about is what's listed as the content of the bill. So there are three main aims of this legislation. One is to create an offence of prescribing, administering or supplying medicinal products to children with gender dysphoria, or as we know it, gender foreclosure. The second one is preventing the recognition of gender inconsistency in children, which I would prefer it if they would term it preventing the concretization or preventing the foreclosure of gender identity in children. There's probably a better way of phrasing it, in my view, from a safeguarding angle. The third thing is to define sex in the provision of services. So that relates to the Equality Act, whereas the other two relate to the Health and Care Act. So it aims to do quite a lot, this thing. So let's just read what it says. So reading the actual bill, it says it wants to regulate access to hormone therapy for children under the age of 18. So not just puberty blockers, but hormone therapy as well. That means cross-sex hormones. To make provision relating to social transition practices in schools and other settings. Brilliant, because that has to come from national government, because the local authorities, if we have to pick them off one at a time, that's going to take forever. It's like in America, if you could get some federal legislation to override all the states, that would be amazing. But I mean, we're so small in comparison. Then to make provision regarding the meaning of the protected characteristic of sex and for connected purposes. So this is a bit confusing to me because I thought we all know what sex is. I thought that was quite easy to understand in the legislation. But as ever, let's read some more detail, see where we get. So moving on. So there are 3 sections within the bill. The first 2 sections amend the Health and Care Act 2022 to outlaw giving puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones to children, but there are exceptions. Why must we have exceptions? So this first section proposes adding a section into the Health and Care Act, and it's significant that the section it wants to add this into is the safeguarding of children section. So I'll just put a link. I'll do a little thing showing you what the section where they propose to put it. So it's in a good place in the bill if they manage to amend it. And what it actually says is insert children with gender dysphoria 179A offence of prescribing, administering or supplying medicinal products. Number 1, a healthcare professional commits an offence if they prescribe, administer or supply a medicinal product to a child as part of a course of treatment for gender dysphoria for the purposes of A, stopping or delaying the normal onset of puberty, or B, affirming the child's perception of their sex where that perception is inconsistent with the child's sex. So they limit the legislation to healthcare professionals. So people that are not healthcare professionals, i.e. the staff of lobbying groups such as Mermaids or Gendered Intelligence or whoever these other grooming organisations are, they are not covered by this section of this legislation because they are not healthcare professionals by and large. But it is good that it is specifying that both, I'm just trying to get a comfortable position here because it helps me keep going a bit longer. It specifies both the puberty blockade and the cross-sex hormones. Sounds good, right? The next section makes it clear a healthcare professional guilty of an offence under subsection 1 is liable on summary conviction to imprisonment for a term not exceeding the general limit in the magistrate's court, or a fine, or both. Good, yes, send them to jail. Jail them. Straight to jail.
Like that, they put you in jail right away. You make an appointment with the dentist and you don't show up, believe it or not, jail right away. We have the best patients in the world.
Straight to jail for health professionals that want to medically abuse children. Sounds great. 3, hang on, it's the defence. For a healthcare professional charged with an offence under subsection 1 to show that the medicinal product was prescribed, administered or supplied to a child as part of a course of treatment for gender dysphoria that began before this section came into force. So they're creating a legal defence for people that committed the medical malpractice before this law came into effect. So everybody that's already prescribed drugs that will harm these children, drugs that will concretise these gender foreclosed children. So all of those children that have been harmed we would not be able to pursue criminal charges against all of the healthcare professionals that have been involved in that long chain of groomers and abusers of those children. So I'm not best pleased about that. I don't understand why we have to. Is it a matter of law that I don't understand, that we can't make a law that says no, and we're also going to go back against you because it's assault. It's assault to inflict a medical treatment against somebody who's not able to consent to it, and children can't consent to the kind of outcomes that they're going to get from puberty blockade and cross-sex hormones. It is a defence for a healthcare professional charged with an offence under subsection 1 to show that the medicinal product was prescribed, administered or supplied to a child as part of a course of treatment where it is a defence to show the medicinal product was before the start of that course of treatment, the child had obtained and taken such medicinal products without the consent or connivance of a healthcare professional. So they're creating another defence for healthcare professionals who have a child sitting in front of them with their activist parent, their Munchausen by proxy parent, who says, well, we've already been ordering cross-sex hormones because mermaids told us how to get them on the grey market. So then they're saying it would be a defence if the healthcare professional then says, well, since you've already been on the hormones for X amount of time, then clearly I should continue that because to stop it now would be terrible. Because I don't see any clinical circumstances, again, not a doctor, welcome to be schooled on this by medical professionals. I don't see any circumstance in which it would be less harmful to continue medically abusing a child through the provision of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones than it would be to wean that child off them. I would be much happier if this clause said that would have to be the aim, that the only justification for a prescription that contained these items for a child would be that it is in the process of weaning them off a prescription that they've obtained without the connivance of a medical professional. That I would co-sign. So we're getting really into the weeds here now. So I'm not gonna labour the point, but do you see what I mean? Like you've got to actually read what's written, because it's not enough to just agree in principle, because it's sneaky, isn't it? It would have been clinically inappropriate to not prescribe, administer or supply the medicinal product to the child. But the NHS have just said it's not clinically appropriate to do this to any children. And finally, it's great to see that they make it clear that sex is your actual sex, which is registered at birth, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I can see activist parents using these defences. It breaks my heart because unethical providers could just set up shop. They might name their practice something like Gender Foreclosure GP. They might locate themselves in like Hong Kong or Singapore or somewhere like that. And they might issue prescriptions for children on the basis that, oh, well, the child or the activist parents agree to sign a form that says that they've been getting a prescription on the black market. And as a harm reduction approach, I'm going to provide that on the grey market for them. You can just see it playing out, the exact same problem, just playing out again, because these people are looking for markets to sell their products and they don't give a shit about these children. They're not safeguarding these children by pursuing these harmful medical malpractices. No, they're not. Right, onward. So the second part of the legislation is titled Preventing the Recognition of Gender Inconstancy in Children. Number 1, a public authority in England, that's all of the local authorities, must not take any steps to recognise or enable the recognition of children as having a gender that is inconsistent with their sex. Number 2, in particular, a public authority must not A, refer to a child with language that is inconsistent with their sex, including 1, when speaking to the child, 2, when speaking, writing or recording information about the child. I like it. I like the fact that they're making it clear that it's through the language that the school grooming often operates, and this would knock it on the head. This would knock it on the head, and no, it would knock it on the head in all of the schools that are organised through the local authorities. Private schools that you pay for fees separately from the local authority, they wouldn't be affected by this. They can pretty much do what they want, I think. But I'm assuming that pressure would come to bear on them if this became the legislation. Again, not a lawyer. I welcome correction because I'm just I'm just providing what my thoughts are here. So it's very clear that by specifically naming that, both by talking to the child and referring to the child in the child's absence, using linguistic deception, that is encouraging the gender foreclosure. And so that's why it's seeking to end it. And I really like that. Really like that. No pronoun pins, no secret nicknames, no secret names that are different from school and home, no telling your friends one thing that has to be like a secret from the parent. No, none of all of that has to stop. Brilliant. And then it makes available to a child services or facilities that are otherwise only available to the child of the opposite sex. So it's saying if you're a boy, you use the boys. If you're a girl, you use the girls. Toilets, changing rooms, etc. If there are specific sex ed classes that are relevant for people who share your biological sex, that is the group you need to be in. That's really, 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 you should not be in the class of girls learning about menstruation or boys learning about wet dreams or whatever it is. I don't know if they still separate you for that. And C, otherwise treat a child in a manner that is inconsistent with their sex. Great. And it also, again, it makes clear that sex means sex. Biological sex. It's listed on your birth certificate. It's not a secret. We can see, we know. There is no mystery. There is no spectrum. That's what it is. I like it. It's clear. I like that much better, because that's not saying, oh, but if a child has connived to create a gender identity without the participation of a teacher, then it's a harm reduction approach for the teacher to continue to use the secret identity. Because that doesn't make any sense, but that's what they said for doctors to do in the previous section. So, yeah. So anyway, moving on. So we're going to talk now about provision of services definition of sex. So this now is changing from the Health and Care Act 2022 to the Equality Act 2010. And it's being amended. So there are all these different protected characteristics in the Equality Act, as you know, and one of them is sex. It suggests that in section 11, protected characteristics sex, the existing text becomes subsection 1, and then after subsection 1, insert subsection 2. For the purposes of this act, sex in relation to a person means the classification of that person as either male or female based on the organisation of the person's body for a specific reproductive role, as indicated by a person's sex chromosomes, naturally occurring sex hormones, and internal and external genitalia present at birth. That seems comprehensive. I mean, it seems complicated, but, you know, I understand that in legislation we have to pin down these definitions in a way that's going to be applicable to everybody. So, you know, who am I to say different? Accordingly, A, references in this act to man are references to a person of any age classified as male, and C, references in this, what, A and C, where's B? Anyway, that's what it says. References in this act to women are references to a person of any age classed as female. I think that must be a typo. I'm sure they still do have typos at second reading stage, don't they? So I like the fact that it makes it clear it's reproductive role that we're talking about. It makes sense that sex means a male or a female of any age, but that's confusing me because I remember that's what it says in the Equality Act. Or at least I thought I remembered that, so I thought, well, I'd better check. So then I checked. So I looked up the stuff about the protected characteristic of sex and what the definition currently is. So the EHCR or the ECHR. You see, this is the thing. My executive function goes when I'm tired. I'm tired because I did that video yesterday. So please excuse if I make a simple error. or I don't, otherwise make a bit of a sham of it, then please excuse me. So it says, according to the advice on the website, it says sex in the Equality Act means the sex recorded on the birth certificate or on the gender recognition certificate. What? That's dreadful. That's dreadful, because that basically means that men are women. And that's not good. So let's look at the actual legislation. So let's look at it. It's section 11, sex, in relation to the protected characteristic of sex. So this is the bit that they want to amend by putting something underneath this. So it says, in relation to the protected characteristic of sex, a reference to a person who has a particular protected characteristic is a reference to a man or to a woman. B, a reference to persons who share a protected characteristic is a reference to persons of the same sex. So it lists sex as being a man or a woman. But then you've got the protected characteristic of gender reassignment. And that says you should be treated as a man or a woman for most purposes. So that means you get wiggle room, and then you get activists embedding themselves in these organisations, and they become captured organisations, and then they spew out this guidance that says that men can be women and that we have to pretend that they're women, and it's a mess. It's a mess. So that's why the EHRC flipping guidance says that you can have sex can be different from what's on your birth certificate, which is just crazy. It's crazy. So I don't know why anybody ever thought, oh, well, we'll just change the law and that will change reality. That will make people accept stuff that's not true because we've changed the law and we've made it illegal. Because that only works in totalitarian states. Anyway, so reality is real no matter what the law is, okay? It doesn't change. So if that's the case, and therefore the Equality Act needs to be amended to make that clear, then fair enough, I support this amendment. But the real issue is the Gender Recognition Act 2004, because the madness that we can say to somebody that you can amend your birth certificate because you've now got this special gender soul, it's just bonkers. Being able to give men the right to apply for a sex deception certificate so that they can be treated as women for most purposes is bananas. No, we simply have to repeal the GRA, the Gender Recognition Act. Working towards repeal is something that I think has widespread grassroots support. It's not something that's getting so much support at the level of our big lobbying organisations, but that's okay. We have to lobby the people that do the lobbying in order for them to understand that it is a grassroots priority, because I think they still think, oh, it's not achievable, or it would take too long, or it wouldn't pass muster with the general population. I don't think they understand just how many people who aren't activists, who aren't part of feminism or gender critical movement or reality-based movement or anything, that are just ordinary folks, they don't go for this. They really don't. And this whole private members bill is evidence that, like, Liz Truss is going to amend the Equality Act if she gets this through. So clearly we can amend stuff that's already law. We can repeal stuff. We can change it. We can, we can lobby it so that we get rid of the anti-safeguarding parts of it. And, the patently fraudulent protected characteristic of gender reassignment has got to go. You can't have both sex and gender reassignment as protected characteristics because they contradict each other, and there's no justification for it. So anyway, back to what we're actually talking about, because this isn't a video about repeal, although clearly you should support repeal because that's important. Sex Matters have done a really good job of simplifying the legislation, and that's great. Because, this is dry and it's difficult and it's not fun to go through all the legislation and read it out and have to try and cross references and stuff. I mean, MPs have got people to help them do this stuff. So I'm really happy that Sex Matters has done that and has made it easy. They've got a website there that you can go to, and you've got a thing you click through to ask your MP. So it searches for your MP for you, and then it pre-populates an email that you can then amend. You can change the wording if you want to. You don't need to. It's absolutely fine. You could just hit send and it's fine. But if you've had any kind of personal contact with your MP, like if you've lobbied them, if you've met with them, if you've talked to them about this stuff by email or on the phone, I think it's always good to reference that, and so that they have a sense that, yeah, this is someone that's not going to let this lie. They're going to bring this up again, aren't they? You know, they want to respond to people that are lobbying them. You know, that's our system. So Sex Matters has made that very easy to do from their website. It's just a few clicks. I've requested that my MP attend the debate because I know he doesn't agree with me on any of this stuff. He is way off peaking, way off. He's still firmly entrenched in the opposite camp. He believes that there are such things as trans children. He doesn't understand the objections because he doesn't have that background. And, you know, it takes different times for different people to peak. I still retain hope that most people are not bad people. Like, most people do not have an interest in maintaining this anti-safeguarding stance because they don't want to see children safeguarded. I think most people are ignorant of why what they're supporting is anti-safeguarding. So good for Sex Matters. They've, you know, made it really clear. I do think there's been quite a lot of contact between Sex Matters and between the pertinent MPs. Liz Truss and MForstater had like complimentary tweets saying, "Ooh, support this bill. Oh, it's nice to have your support," stuff like that. And I think this is where organisations like Sex Matters do very well. I would really like to see us use their learning in the fight for repeal for the GRA and to get rid of the protected characteristic of gender reassignment, because it's clear that they know the process and they've got the contacts, and so if we can get them on board, that would be ideal. So the roll call of MPs that have gone out of their way to protect women and children are as follows: Liz Truss, Priti Patel, Ian Paisley, Dame Jackie Doyle-Price, Dr. Caroline Johnson, Nick Fletcher, Miriam Cates, Ben Bradley, Tom Hunt, Robin Miller, Andrew Lua, and Marco Longy. If you wanted to send any of them a thank you note, I'm sure they would appreciate it. Their email addresses are all listed in the description box so that you can click through, add them to your contacts list and send a round robin email to them all. Or a handwritten thank you note. You know, I have said it before, get a stack of postcards and send them out. It really helps because A, it's really quick to do. B, people like a physical piece of post. It still has a significance, especially because emails are just overwhelming and there's so many of them, and you can get other people to check your emails for you. But a piece of post, I'm convinced, is more likely to actually land in the hand of the person that you send it to. The debate is listed for tomorrow morning. If you've got a TV licence, get yourself a cup of tea, sit back and watch it live on BBC Parliament. If you don't have a TV licence, rely on YouTubers to upload any of the good bits and watch it tomorrow evening. I guess that would probably be the soonest thing. Probably be stuff floating around, I imagine, on X. So that's about it. Another video that a bit of a brain ache after this one, I have to say. So take care. God, my hair's absolutely insane. I'll see you soon. Probably won't be able to keep this schedule up because next week I've got a lot of other commitments. So it's unlikely I'll be able to put a video up next week. I'll get one up the week after, hopefully. I don't want to overpromise after a long break on YouTube because that just becomes overwhelming. you can find me in all the usual places doing all the usual things. I'm on X as Claire OT. I've got a Substack where I kind of write an essay, which I use before I make these videos, if you prefer to read it rather than watch it. Please do like and share the video. Please do leave me comments below. I really am very interested to hear corrections, additions. You know, this is not my area. This is not something that I'm confident on. The whole legislation thing is not what I do. So I'm just working my way through it with you. I'm very, very grateful for any of your expertise that you want to share. If you want to buy me a coffee, you could put a couple of quid in my PayPal, and that would be great. There's no obligation. I'm always going to provide this for you for free. Yeah, all of the resources that I used are listed in the description box, as ever. If you like foxes, check me out on TikTok. Take care. I'll see you soon.